The youngest, poorest, loneliest, these are what people associate with Timor-Leste. This is a small country located in the eastern part of the Indonesian archipelago, where ancient traditions, unique legal regulations, and peculiarities can be found that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. In this video, let's explore together 15 prohibitions and oddities in East Timor. From environmental conservation regulations to special cultural rituals, let's embark on a journey to discover the unique and diverse culture of East Timor through the restrictions and peculiarities that this country brings. Number 15. Mimicking language. If you set foot in Timor-Leste, you need to be extremely mindful of your words and tone, as language issues have also caused division and created a mess in this country. Portuguese has become the official language of East Timor, but the problem lies in the fact that most Timorese do not speak this language. Even though Lisbon has been present for over 4 decades in this small Asian country with about 1 million people, most people in this former Portuguese colony use the local Tetum language, and Indonesian, the language of the neighboring giant country. Therefore, when the government considers Portuguese as the lingua franca and incorporates it into the education system, the people also have to start learning this language as a second language. Therefore, they pronounce and express themselves in Portuguese quite awkwardly. When visiting here and communicating with them in Portuguese, maintain a respectful attitude and empathy for them. Never mimic or laugh at their language, as you might be cursed or even attacked. Learning and speaking Portuguese alone has caused them a lot of frustration. Think about how they would not be angry when you mock and mimic them. Number 14. Crocodile worship. Even if you witness crocodiles killing people in Timor-Leste, the locals here will not believe your story. It's crazy, but the fact is that due to the worship and reverence for crocodiles, the people of East Timor do not believe they are behind the increasing attacks. Even though they regularly face the risk of being attacked by crocodiles, crocodile attacks in Timor-Leste have increased in recent years. Scientists are trying to understand why. Yuki Fukuda and Sam Banks, 2 biologists from Australia, visited East Timor, one of the poorest countries in the world, in March to investigate the reasons why so many Timorese are being killed by crocodiles. A Tetum language sign warns of the crocodile danger. Crocodile attacks here have increased 20-fold in the past decade, with at least 1 person dying every month in a country with 1.2 million people. Locals often fetch water, wash, and bathe in the river, which increases the risk of crocodile attacks the most. The most at-risk targets from crocodiles are people living on the banks of the countless rivers on this island or along the coast. In Timor-Leste, crocodiles are called abu, which means grandparents in Tetum. Killing them is culturally taboo and also illegal. A characteristic crocodile statue in a Catholic church in the outskirts of Los Bosas. For centuries, people have revered and even worshipped crocodiles. If you come here, never speak ill of this animal, as to them, it is their ancestor. Number 13. Prohibition on foreigners participating in ceremonies. In many countries, tourists may be invited to participate in local ceremonies and cultural experiences. However, in Timor-Leste, this is completely prohibited by law. They do this with the intention of preserving their own culture and traditions by keeping ceremonies or festivals exclusively for indigenous people. They are concerned that the presence of foreigners may affect the sanctity of these ceremonies. In some cases, the decision to not allow foreigners to participate in ceremonies is also due to concerns about security or the interests of the community. This may be related to specific regional relationships or sensitive political or religious issues. If you visit, do not attempt to join in their ceremonies, as even journalists are rarely allowed, and your insistence may only anger them further. Number 12. Avoid driving old cars. One thing to remember is to never choose old cars for transportation in this country. It will be a terrible experience that you won't forget. Despite its small size, only 15,000 square kilometers, the hilly terrain and lack of infrastructure in Timor-Leste make domestic travel a challenge. Recently, a new road has been built along the northern coast, connecting the border town of Batad to Dili, passing through Baucau. But venture off this road, and conditions quickly resemble those at the mouth of the moon's volcano. Construction projects are underway throughout the country, and soon, Timor-Leste may have some great new roads. But until then, just note that the standard speed is only 15 kilometers per hour. Number 11. Poorest in the world. If you come to Timor-Leste, don't complain about why the internet is so slow, why there are frequent power cuts, and why everything looks so backward. That's because Timor-Leste is one of the poorest countries in the world, with a population of about 1.2 million and a GDP of only $1.2 billion per year. Per capita GDP is $1,000 per year. Of that $1.2 billion, a whopping 80% comes from oil and gas exploitation. Every year the country experiences famine seasons. Malnutrition is a serious concern in Timor-Leste, with a recent study showing that 22% of the population faces food insecurity at a high level. In addition to being a food-deficient country and having to import 60% of its food needs, the community also faces severe food shortages every year, with limited access to nutritious food, leaving families without enough to eat. This famine season often occurs during the dry season, typically from November to March, when food reserves from the previous harvest begin to run out, while the new harvest has not yet been harvested. During this period, families face food insecurity, malnutrition, and increased vulnerability. Work is being done at a food center in Timor-Leste to address these issues, preserving abundant harvests to ensure nutritious food year-round, especially when crops are scarce. Number 10. The newest country on Earth. We visited quite a few ancient countries with fascinating ancient cultures, but today you and I are standing in the world's youngest country, only 22 years old, Timor-Leste. Formerly ruled by the Portuguese from the 1600s until 1975, shortly after gaining independence from Portugal, Timor-Leste continued to be under the control of Indonesia. In 1999, the people of Timor-Leste voted for independence in a UN-sponsored referendum. The result led to fierce reactions from pro-Indonesian militia forces, resulting in destruction and further loss of life. Finally, in 2002, after protests worldwide, Timor-Leste achieved full independence and became the first new country of the 21st century. Additionally, Timor-Leste is also the newest country in Asia. Another interesting fact, due to its proximity to Indonesia, many people once thought that the people of Timor-Leste originated from this territory. However, they are believed to be descendants of Australian indigenous people. Number 9. Home to the oldest living humans. Despite being the youngest country in the world, this nation is home to the oldest known human inhabitants. Archaeological sites found in Timor-Leste indicate that people have lived in this area for at least 42,000 years, making it one of the oldest locations in the region for modern human activity. There is a large cave on the island of Timor-Leste called Lahar. The oldest fishing hook in the world was excavated here. Additionally, based on radiocarbon dating, researchers have found evidence that modern humans were fishing from the ocean 42,000 years ago. Furthermore, there are carvings on the walls dating back 10,000 years, and paintings believed to be up to 6,000 years old. When visiting Timor-Leste, don't forget to visit these sites to touch the tens of thousands of years of our ancestors past. Number 8. The most biologically diverse marine area in the world. If you love nature, especially the ocean and underwater creatures, don't wait any longer. Come immediately to this country where you'll find the most colorful marine area on our planet. Ataro Island, 24 kilometers north of Dili, is located in the most diverse coral reef area on the planet. In 2016, scientists discovered 643 species in the waters around Ataro Island, many of which are believed to be entirely new. This location is within the Coral Triangle, a marine area in the western Pacific Ocean that has an incredibly large amount of coral and the highest biodiversity of any marine environment in the world. However, despite that, researchers were surprised by the record biodiversity at Ataro Island. As a result, researchers believe this area should be turned into a marine park. Ataro Island will impress anyone who visits and could contribute to a thriving ecotourism market for Timor-Leste. Number 7. The youngest population in the world. Timor-Leste is one of the youngest countries in the world. No, I don't mean the age of the nation, as we just discussed a few minutes ago. I mean the age of its people. According to recent statistics, half of the population is under 20 years old. You can feel it. You'll see children everywhere around you, and this youthfulness is continuing to increase due to high birth rates and increasing life expectancy. This makes Timor-Leste one of the youngest populations in the world. Timor-Leste has no UNESCO heritage. We've talked about many most of this country, but strangely, Timor-Leste has no UNESCO-recognized heritage sites within its territory. UNESCO typically recognizes sites, monuments, cultural traditions, and arts with special cultural, historical, or natural value by listing them as World Heritage Sites. However, the absence of UNESCO heritage titles does not mean that Timor-Leste has no culturally or naturally significant value. This country has a rich history, diverse culture, and unique natural landscapes, but for various reasons, it may not have been recognized by UNESCO. Conserving and promoting the cultural and natural features of Timor-Leste remains an important priority, not only to protect the country's heritage but also to promote sustainable tourism and economic development. Second highest Catholic population in the world. Standing second only to the Vatican, about 97% of Timor-Leste's population is Catholic. Interestingly, this is one of two countries with a majority of Christians in Southeast Asia, the other being the Philippines. The influence of the Catholic Church has deep roots originating from the colonial period of Portugal, when the Portuguese arrived along with Franciscan friars and attempted to propagate Christianity. They met very limited success. They then ceased their efforts and instead focused on exploiting the land for natural resources. Back then, few Timorese were Christians. Most followed their own animistic religions. When Indonesia arrived in 1975 during the peak of the Cold War, they established the Pancasila doctrine, allowing and recognizing only 5 religions: Islam, Protestantism, Catholicism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Having no religion was unthinkable, and anyone claiming a spiritual or non-religious belief, an atheist, was immediately considered a communist. True communists were not well treated. Even today, although most follow the Catholic faith, animistic beliefs still exist and thrive. Christianity in Timor-Leste is very peculiar. Yes, Jesus is the Lord and the Savior, but there are also ancestral spirits around us, helping and guiding us in our endeavors. At least, that's what many Timorese believe. So, through the journey of exploring the 15 bands and oddities in Timor-Leste, we have seen the uniqueness and richness of this country. From protecting people from harassment to maintaining unique traditions, Timor-Leste is an intriguing nation with wonders waiting to be discovered. Let these special regulations be a testament to the cultural diversity in the world and a reminder of the uniqueness of each country. Thank you for joining us on this journey. See you in the next videos.